You are Locked On Mets, your daily New York Mets podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hello to all you amazing Mets fans. You're listening to Locked On Mets, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Thank you for making Locked On Mets your first listen every day. Locked On Mets is free and available on all platforms, including YouTube. If you're watching on YouTube, apologies, there were some audio issues on the video side, so you're getting an audio-only show today. And what we're discussing is why Tommy Pham should be cut. Okay, I'll be getting into that in the second segment. In the third segment, I'm going through who I believe the Mets should replace him with. We're going to lead things off today, discussing the Mets' loss, why I did not like Pham in the starting lineup over, Jeff McNeil. I did not like Tommy Pham dropping a fly ball, but we're going to get to all that, and of course, McGill struggles. Before we do, I'm your host, Ryan Finkelstein. If you want to find any of my work, follow me on Twitter at FinkelsteinRyan. You can also find some of my writing at justbaseball.com, where I work as the managing editor. Now, before this game even started on Tuesday, the Mets lost because they did not put their best lineup out there. And I hate to be that guy that's going to blame it all on the lineup. And realistically, that's not the issue. The issue is Tyler McGill gave up a bunch of runs and the Mets didn't score. Those are issues that are not entirely tied to the starting lineup. But when I saw that we are rolling out Tommy Pham over Jeff McNeil, I was a little frustrated. And look, is it just me or the ball seems to find you, right? And when the game was still within reach, the Mets are trailing 4-1, Pete Alonso and Homer to get them a little bit closer, and you felt like momentum could turn where Tyler McGill maybe settled down after giving up 4 runs in the second inning. Fly ball to start off the bottom of the fourth. Routine fly ball. Tommy Pham drops it. McGill gets a couple strikeouts. Inning was extended though because of the fly ball. All of a sudden a couple more runs come in. McGill has to exit before getting out of that fourth inning. The bullpen once again is taxed. You have Steven Nogasek just wearing one, throwing over 60 pitches out of the pen. I didn't even know he had that in him. And he might end up on the IL suddenly because, we blew out his arm yesterday. Or DFA'd or something because I believe he's out of options. But the Mets just said, hey, we're just going to ride you till the wheels fall off. And credit to him for wearing one for the team. Realistically, I don't even think maybe one of those runs was ultimately charged to him in a 7-2 game, so it wasn't even necessarily his fault at all. You got to give him a lot of credit. Yeah, one of those runs, he walked 3, 1 hit allowed, got us, 8 outs, he goes 2 2/3, 4 strikeouts. But McGill gets charged with 4 earned because those two in that fourth inning aren't charged with because of Tommy Pham. But again, getting back to my overall problem with it, Jeff McNeil should be in the lineup every day. Jeff McNeil makes winning plays. Jeff McNeil catches that ball. Jeff McNeil should not be sitting on the bench after an off day so that you can get Tommy Pham into the lineup against a lefty. I don't know if that's a Buck Showalter thing. I don't know if that could be Billy Epler, looking at and his analytics team, looking at how hard Tommy Pham hits the baseball when he hits into outs all the time, inevitably. And is thinking, let's see what we have in him before we cut bait. And they're instructing Buck to put him in the lineup every day against a lefty. And if you do that, where else do you remove someone? I think on yesterday's show I was saying maybe Nimmo gets a day. Well, look, Nimmo's actually, I didn't realize the splits. He's been better against lefties than righties this year. And he went 3 for 4 in this one. So obviously you're not going to put him on the bench. Escobar has been swinging a great bat lately, so why pull him from his better side? You might as well play him at second base, and he got a hit out there. You could bench Starling Marte, but Wouldn't do that 0 for 4. So that really frustrated me. The fact that you're continuing to be deferential to a guy that you got on a 1-year, $6 million deal at the end of the offseason after you had, dropped, your pursuit of Carlos Correa and you felt like you had to get another bat. This team never needed another bat. And I'm sick of the front office leaning into the mistakes that they made without admitting they're wrong. Maybe this is a Billy Epler problem, not a Buck Showalter problem. And to a certain extent, I think it is, because I'll tell you what, Buck Showalter has done a lot more in his career than Billy Epler has done in his. And, the continued feeding of Pham and Vogelback, I don't know if that's a front office directive or a Buck Showalter directive. I will say Buck Showalter can get a little bit too lefty-righty obsessed, and I don't like going to Daniel Vogelback and pinch hitting for Mark Vientos. Like, where is the finger on the pulse of this team? And what has turned this team around, despite the fact that it's been the veterans coming through like Pete Alonso and Francisco Lindor and some of the clutch hitting that's happened from other guys, the spark has been lit by the baby Mets. So when you have an opportunity for Mark Vientos to bring energy into your game, why stifle him and take him out of the lineup? Because you think Daniel Vogelback has a better chance of hitting a home run? Mark Vientos is the guy that hit the 13 home runs in AAA this year and won in the big leagues. And of those home runs, I believe 11 of them were against right-handed pitching. And that's in triple. And I'm trying to recall, I feel like, that home run was off the sidearm and righty. So 12 of his 14 home runs this year have come against right-handed pitching. And you have him up. I'm trying to find the spot. Was it in the 6th inning that they went to him? Yeah, 6th inning. Okay, so 6th inning rally. You have Nimmo gets a leadoff hit. Escobar follows suit. Francisco Lindor draws a walk. Bases are loaded. Pete Alonso grounds out to third. Forced play there. You still have runners at first and second when Daniel Vogelback ends up pinch hitting for Mark Vientos. So there was nowhere to put Mark Vientos. He would have got attacked. Just because they had a righty on the mound, you pull him. In that spot, if Mark Vientos happens to run into one, all of a sudden, 6-5 Mets. But instead you go to Vogelback, and what's Vogelback do? Puts as good of a swing as he can on a baseball. Problem? He doesn't have the same power that Mark Vientos does. Comes up short. It might have been short of the warning track even, but that was as far as it got if it did make it to the warning track. You had a couple of guys tag up there, and with runners at second and third, and Starling Marte up against a righty, guy who has been struggling all year long, with Jeff McNeil on your bench, that's a situation where you can't pinch hit for Marte because the veterans have to hold true. It frustrates me. It really does. And again, I don't know if I should pin that on Billy Epler or Buck Showalter, but maybe sometimes you have to protect your manager from himself a little bit. And that's not what's happening here. Tyler McGill gets off the hook on this one as far as getting ridiculed because I just wanted to turn the page from this game. And honestly, this is what you expect for him, to have his ERA at 4.32, to have some bad starts. If Tommy Pham catches that ball, maybe he gives up 4 over 5 innings instead of 6 runs, 4 of them earned, and doesn't make it out of the 4th. So he gets a pass. I want to continue to harp on how bad Pham has been in the next segment. Before we do, today's episode is brought to you by RocketMoney. Try it free for 30 days, just enough time to try it, and then guess what happens? You completely forget about it, and you're going to be paying that subscription for the next 3 years if you're not careful. Over 80% of people have subscriptions they forget about. You could be wasting money and not even realizing it. Rocket Money is there to help you find those forgotten subscriptions so you can stop paying for the ones you don't use. Do you know how much subscriptions cost? Most Americans think that they pay about $80 a month on subscriptions, but in reality, it's closer to $200. If you don't know how much you're spending, check out Rocket Money. It's a personal finance app that finds and cancels your unwanted subscriptions monitors your spending, and helps you lower your bills all in one place. Over 3 million people have used RocketMoney, saving the average person up to $720 a year. Stop throwing your money away, cancel unwanted subscriptions, and manage your expenses the easy way by going to rocketmoney.com/lockedonmlb. That's rocketmoney.com/lockedonmlb. rocketmoney.com/lockedonmlb. The Mets will play the Cubs again tonight at 7:40 Eastern. Catch every pitch of the Mets' hometown broadcast with SiriusXM on the SXM app. Just search Mets. Tommy Pham on the season. 210 average, 298 on base, OPS of 656. The slug is coming in at, got to be below 400, right? For the year, Tommy Pham slug 358. Brutal numbers. To make matters worse, because he started off hot. I remember first 2 weeks of the season, all of you guys tweeting at me anytime Tommy Pham got a hit or hit a home run or did something good. It was, oh, Ryan, you're going to buy that jersey. Believe my original bet was that Pham wouldn't have an OPS over 700. I think is what I said. Maybe I said 750. You'd have to check the tape, but I think it was 700. Again, sitting at 656 right now, and it's because over the last month, you go back to April 24th through May 23rd, Tommy Pham is hitting, let us see here, 189. You have to scroll down to the bottom of the list. That's how you find him. You know, among the least valuable players on the team. 189 average, 279 on base, 324 slug. Weighted runs created plus measures hitters based on a league average of 100. He's at 72, so 28% worse than your league average hitter. He has one home run, 2 runs scored, 3 RBIs. His wins above replacement, negative 0.2. Now, the problem is that right below him at negative 0.3 is Mark Canha, who's hitting 219, 250 on base, 328 slug, 61 WRC plus. He has been 11% worse than even Tommy Pham. Here's my thing, though. Mark Canha has a track record of success more recent than the track record of success on Tommy Pham. You know, we've seen Eduardo Escobar find a limited role off the bench, thrive in it, and now push for more playing time. Who's to say that Mark Canha, who last year was, a 127, if I'm not mistaken? 128 weighted runs created plus, 28% better than your league average hitter, and got on base at a 367 clip, hit 13 home runs. Who's to say he can't rediscover that? Tommy Pham, looking back at the track record last year, he got 600 plate appearances. He got more run than Canha did between the Red Sox and the Reds. 89 weighted runs created plus. So carry the 11% worse than league average hitter. Canha 28. Oh yeah, so Canha was 39% better last year. It was worth 2 additional wins. Is a better outfielder who wouldn't drop a pop-up. I don't think the Mets are going to cut bait on Mark Canha. But you damn sure could cut bait on Tommy Pham. And this is a team that has an outfield problem because over that same month that Pham and Canha have been struggling, Starling Marte has been hitting 250, 286 on base, 288 slug, 65 weighted runs created plus. He too has been worse than Pham, for being honest. But he's under a year 2 of a 4-year contract. Brandon Nimmo, over that month, 245 average, 304 on base, 353 slug, 87 WRC plus, although it does seem like he's starting to break his way out of it. And obviously you're going to run Nimmo out there every day because he's your best defensive outfielder in center, of course. But you got to find some production in that outfield. And it's not coming from Tommy Pham. And it probably or possibly might not be coming from Canha. Marte, you just believe in the talent too much to give up on. But these guys are all dropping the ball. And the only way to fix it is to make Jeff McNeil an outfielder. Because then you got McNeil and Nimmo, and you know that with those two guys, you are going to get production from your outfield. And Eduardo Escobar, to his credit, I actually want to change this sample because right now the sample is for the 24th as I'm looking on Fangraphs. Let me bring that back a week because when was it? Was it April? Was it April 21st or was it April 17th? I believe it was April 17th that Brett Beatty made his debut with the Mets, if I'm not mistaken. So we're going to pull the stats back a week to give the fullest sample size I can to Eduardo Escobar. Okay, that's 14 games. Probably doesn't include today where he went 1 for 3. Eduardo Escobar, 355 average, 412 on base, 710 slug, 3 home runs, 206 WRC plus. It's been a very small sample size of 34 plate appearances, but in that small role, he's been the Mets' best hitter. So ride the hot bat, put Escobar at second base for now, slide Jeff McNeil to left, send Tommy Pham to the moon, and find a replacement on the roster that just is a defensive first speed guy that you could call on to pinch run, to play some defense in the outfield, or if you want a super util guy, or not really super util, because super utils are guys that get in there every day, but just a utility guy that could play infield, outfield. Just get a glove that you can stick on your bench, and Buck Showalter won't play him, okay? And direct him not to play that person, other than maybe one start a week. Give Mark Canha a little more run maybe as well, just to see if he can break out of it. But for the most part, I lean pretty heavily into, Beatty's in the lineup every day. Jeff McNeil's in the lineup every day. You have Alonso, Lindor, Nimmo in the lineup every day. And then you're alternating playing time between Marte, Canha, and Escobar in the other spots with, hopefully Vientos getting more of the share of DH. But obviously they're going to continue to work Vogel back in there. Unfortunately, honestly, I think that the best version of this Mets team doesn't have Daniel Vogelbach on it, doesn't have Tommy Pham on it, and probably has Ronnie Mauricio on it. And I'll touch on that in the next segment because I know Mets fans are saying, screw Escobar at second, get Ronnie Mauricio playing second base every day, Jeff McNeil in left. But we'll hold on that for a minute because there's another player in AAA that I think is a more likely call, and I'll explain who that is in just a minute. Before we do, though, today's episode is brought to you by Birddogs. You want to enjoy the most comfortable shorts ever. You want to try yourself in Birddogs because Birddogs, they give you a couple things. For one, versatility. You can wear them anywhere. You can wear them on the golf course. You can wear them out to dinner. Wear them at home when you're lounging around because they're that comfortable. I love my Birddogs because it allows me to look a little bit less childish wearing basketball shorts everywhere, but not lose any of that comfort. If you want to try Birddogs and feel how good they are, go to birddogs.com/LockedOnMLB. Use the promo code LockedOnMLB. You're going to get a free Yeti tumbler with every purchase. Again, that's birddogs.com/LockedOnMLB. Use that promo code LockedOnMLB for your free tumbler. If I was Billy Epler, my first order of business on Wednesday would be to DFA Tommy Pham and to call up Lorenzo Cedrola. That would be my move. You're saying, who's Lorenzo Cedrola, and why did he not say Ronnie Mauricio's name? Lorenzo Cedrola is a 25-year-old center fielder who the Mets got as a non-roster invite from the Cincinnati Reds. He is currently hitting .282 with a .383 on-base percentage in Syracuse. He's got an .810 OPS. Has a couple home runs, 3 homers on the season, the same as Tommy Pham, obviously, in AAA. But here's why I like Cedrola. 13 stolen bases in 14 attempts. I would say Tim LeCastro, but he broke his thumb or whatever it was and got advanced to the 60-day IL, and we probably won't see him until the end of the season, if we do see him at all. Cedrola is a guy that could fill that type of a role. A guy you stick at the end of your bench. He can run for Vogelbach or Vientos or anyone you need late in games. He can play some defense in center field, play left, play right. You don't have to play him in the starting lineup, though. I'm sure Buck would still get him in there, unfortunately, at times. But he's not a guy that you're going to be starting 3 times a week like Tommy Pham. And that's going to open up playing time for Eduardo Escobar, for Jeff McNeil for some reason, because he's not in there every day. And, you're going to be able to get a better version of your team. And even if the Mets wanted to play around with it, they could put Beatty in left a little bit and Vientos at third and still start Daniel Vogelbach. I don't love that. I like Beatty in the lineup every day at third base, but if they did it for offensive purposes, I'd prefer that to Tommy Pham out there. I'd prefer that to Vogelbach, no Vientos against righties. But we'll see. We'll see. Apparently, the more and more we're seeing playing time shake out, the more you start to wonder if Mark Vientos is a just face lefties masher. And again, he's hit all of his home runs this year, but 2 against right-handed pitching. But I digress on that one. To me, that's the move. Now, look, I get the notion of Ronnie Mauricio coming up and playing every day. But I also understand that you could call Ronnie Mauricio up and Buck might not play him. And I also understand the potential need at the trade deadline to have a chip that you might be able to flip for, let's just say, Shohei Ohtani's available and the Mets want to get into the sweepstakes. Let's just say, trying to pick a starting pitcher somewhere outside of the obvious Ohtani one. But, name your, let's say you wanted Warner Rodriguez from the Tigers. He might be available. I don't know. And you need a prospect to flip. It'll be good if Ronnie Mauricio hits 350 in AAA until the trade deadline. And also, you could give him until the trade deadline, or close to it, to learn second base, which he's still in the process of doing, and continue to iron out his approach issues, which he seems to be working just fine on because maybe the bat has gotten too advanced for the pitching down there. But I don't know if he'll get the chance to play every day if he's called up right now, especially with Eduardo Escobar hot. If Eduardo Escobar cools off, then, or even let's just say that ankle that he rolled today swells up on him, and that's an IL move you have to make. Maybe then the Mets would just pull the trigger. If Escobar had to hit the IL, maybe they'd say, all right, we're going to put Ryan Mauricio up every day at second base. We're going to put Jeff McNeil in left field every day, and, we're going to relegate Pham and Canna. But it just seems like if those guys are on the bench, Buck's going to force feed them playing time, and then you get into a situation where, Ryan Mauricio doesn't get to face right-handed pitching or something. No, he's better from the left side from everything I recall in the splits. But maybe he doesn't face lefties. I don't know. And suddenly, you got a guy who's getting cold when he was hot all year in Syracuse. So that's the one thing that I'm hesitant on is, the Mets call up Ronnie Mauricio and I have to bang the table for him to play every single day. The best version of the New York Mets this year, with the way that things have been trending, with the way these guys, for the most part, have come up and given really good at-bats. And I know Mark Vientos in his 2 at-bats today struck out, but he took a hack when he got to 3-2 and just missed it. If he connects on that pitch, who knows? It could be something different. And again, give the kid the benefit of the doubt to stay in the game. And with no place to put him, facing a righty, maybe he would have come through. So I feel like these are you have to lean into your new identity. Okay, you have to lean into it. The baby Mets are right now, currently, kind of the storyline that has helped push the narrative in a direction positive for the first time this season. And if these kids can continue to give you a spark, I'd be trusting it and leaning into that spark. And again, the best version of the Mets this year, with what we've seen from Canna, with what we've seen from Pham, hell, with what we've seen from Starling Marte, the best version of this roster has Jeff McNeil in the outfield and probably has Ryan Mauricio as your starting second baseman. So to lay the groundwork for that, can you just cut Tommy Pham already? It's enough of this, Billy. Come on, you listen, don't you? You listen to the show, please. Billy, talking to you. Just get rid of him. You made a mistake. You never should have signed him. It is what it is at this point. hopefully, we'll be discussing a Mets win on tomorrow's show for all you everydayers. Kodai Senga on the hill. Let's see if he can keep his hot run rolling here. The Mets decided to push him back a day to give him a little extra rest. Let's see if that rest pays off. As always, thank you for listening. Make sure you follow, rate, and review wherever you get your podcasts. Make sure you follow me on Twitter, Finkelstein Ryan. Follow the show, Locked On Mets. Thank you for making Locked On Mets your first listen every day. Now for your second listen, check out Locked On MLB. Paul Francis Sullivan as you cover with everything going on in Major League Baseball. Check out Locked On MLB wherever you get your podcasts.